welcome back to Quick Bits, Rust programming language learning series. This is the lesson 2 of our series. In this lesson, we're gonna go over variables, how to create them, how to modify them, how to shadow them, and also we're gonna go over some cool stuff as well. All right, so let's go back into our project. That's the project that we created in our previous lesson. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. So we created the project and we have our source main address, right? So now let's say we want to create variable x and print it, right? So we say let x and let's say it's equal to 4, right? So we want to say, let's just make it simpler because I don't want to go into formatting here. Let's say assigned to 4. Then we want to say x equal to 5, then println assigned to 5. Okay, so you would think this should work, right? Let's see what happens. Cargo built. Okay, boom, we have an error. And it tells us precisely what happens. It says cannot assign twice to immutable variable. As you can probably expect, that the reason that we have this error is because in Rust, every variable by default is immutable, meaning you cannot reassign it, right? So this variable here, let x equal to 4, is immutable. So when you try to change it, you'll get this error. So in order to be able to do that, what we have to do is we have to say mutable. So basically I have to say let mut x equal to 4, right? That tells the Rust compiler that, okay, so this variable x could change later on, right? So then when we assign x to 5, everything is happy days. So this is basically inverse of what you've probably seen in something like Java or C++. So like in C++, for example, by default, right, the variable is mutable, and if you wanted to make it immutable, you have to say const, right? In Java, there is an emulation of that with final, but it's a little bit different. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay, that's good. Yeah, we do get a warning about unused assignment. Basically, what it tells us is that we did assign it to x, but we never used it, so we actually it's not useful operation, right? The same thing it tells us about the warning about x never being used, but that's fine. This is not important for us right now. Okay, so the other thing I want to teach you is about constants, right? So say you want to have a constant that you cannot assign to anything. So what we can do in Rust, when you create that type of variable, the constant that you cannot change at all, right? Like you cannot mutate it at all, even like no matter what, like you cannot do something like this, right? Const mute or something. So basically, in this case, you want to say const hello const, right? And say it's equal to 4. And this, by the way, will fail. I'll show you why. Let's see, cargo build. Okay. So in this case, because this is the constant variable, it's a special type of variable in Rust. It actually wants us to specify a type, and it does even suggest us like, oh, maybe that's what you want to do, right? So the only time you have to specify a type is for the stuff like constant, right? So let's say, okay, what was the suggestion? I32. Okay. See, and we are already learning new things. Okay, so that's how you can explicitly specify a type in Rust. Otherwise, if you, like in this case, it's required to specify a type, but when you do something like this, right, say x4, right, what the Rust does, it does the type deduction for you. So it actually looks at what you're setting and then try to deduce the type. Obviously, with like integers, it's a bit tricky because, you know, it has to, like sometimes we'll make the wrong suggestion. Okay, so now let's say we want to set hello const to 7, right? We should be able to see the error. There you go, complaints about that, right? Okay, let's just make sure that everything passes first. Okay. Cool. So yeah, so now it passes, right? Again, gives us warning that we're not using the value, but who cares? Okay, so one thing I want to also tell you is that in Rust, when you're using the const variables, it's the convention is to use the capitalized letters, right? It's similar to what you see in other languages when you use global like C and C++. Yeah, so just remember that. One last thing I actually want to show you is shadowing. This is one of the features I'm not a big fan of in Rust. So say you have something like this, right? Let x equal to 4, right? For example, Rust allows you to do something like this, which is very interesting. Hello even. Well, actually, let's do first the simple one, right? So something like this is actually legit in Rust. Okay, so this is called shadowing, right? So what happens is you get x, right? Then you create another variable x, right? The worst thing, you can even do something like this and change the type, right? But so far it's fine, right? Like so far nothing really bad happened. I'll tell you, this is interesting. Now you do x, say 7, right? Imagine if you have to print x here. What do you think the value is here of x, right? Many of you probably will say, well, it must be the latest creation, right? Like x7, right? But then it's out of scope, because after here it goes out of scope. So really where it ends up being is this value, let x hello. Yep, this is really potential for a lot of problems, for a lot of bugs. Yeah, but it is what it is. That's the language design for you. All right, I think this is good for this lesson today. Hope you guys like it. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.